Hi, it's Terrence back doing another video here about the UAP situation today. Just wanted to start out, I was trying to get my thoughts together on how I wanted to roll out my videos in a way that would be less confusing. So I think we'll start with my motive now, which is, as I said, because of what's going on with Luis Elizondo and those that are asking people to start talking to remove the stigma. So I'm all in support for people that are about doing that. Should have been done a long time ago, and they're doing a great job at what they're doing. I mean, without them, with Luis Elizondo and his team, you wouldn't. Congress would not have received a UAP report this past June. So I'm looking to remove that stigma by adding my voice, starting the conversation, and telling you my story. And if it's going to become anything, it's going to become a documentation for history about what was happening now. And I think with enough accumulated voices telling their stories, and I encourage everybody that has had an experience or a sighting to speak up, because that's what's going to flood the stigma out of existence. When you get a wave of people voicing the truth and what they have seen. And I know that there's so many instances where people see things and, they are explainable with normal things, but there are things that are certainly not in the ordinary, normal day-to-day activities in the sky. But I'm sorry, I'm doing these videos out on a road, so you might get some traffic here. So I think the best place to start for me is how it all happened. As I say, it came to me. I was 17 years old, I think, and I was going to a party after work. I had just finished work and I had to walk home. And long story short, there was a confrontation at that party between people I didn't know. And people were leaving because of the situation that was boiling up there. Anyways, I met a couple of people I knew there that had left the party on my way to it, and we stopped and sat in a parking lot and talked over what was going on. And as we were sitting there on the adjoining field to the parking lot, just out of the corner of my eye for about a second, I saw just enough time to turn and look at it. It looked like a ball of red light with the same red, like laser red, line of light going through it at about a 45-degree angle, out of my peripheral vision, up and down past the horizon down. It was like the sky cracked. And I was in absolute shock. I was like, what? And I turned, I said, did you see that? And they didn't. They're like, what? I was amazed. Something so big that they didn't catch, but they weren't looking that way. So I had lost interest in the conversation that was going on, and so they continued talking about it, and I just kept staring in the same place, wondering what on earth that was. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. And as I was waiting there for it, again, it happened. It cracked, only I was waiting and watching for the same amount of time, about a second, maybe a second and a half. And it just cracked, lit up the whole sky. Not lit up the sky, but it was there. It's like turned on and off. And I was like amazed. Now, I had no research into UFOs or anything like that, and this didn't move like a UFO. So I was talking about it for, I don't know, a day to 3 days, and I went over to one of those friends' houses, and they showed me a hardcover book from Time about UFOs and common misidentifications, and one of them was ball lightning. But where I live, that's you need certain precipitation and temperature levels to achieve that, and not very common, if at all, present around where I was living. So that got me thinking. Like, it was so amazing to see that I just couldn't get it out of my mind. And so I started to investigate, started reading like most people do. There's not much you can say about it, but it was just that impactful that I had to know more about it. And the more I looked into it, the more I was learning. And then I started not only going to look through books and stuff. I heard about these places at symposiums and whatnot that certain people show up to talk about the subject, and it was just it was very, very interesting. I wasn't even aware that people were having these experiences. So these sightings and whatnot, there's nothing I can think of natural in where I live that would do that. So I kept looking and kept looking, and then when I went to these symposiums, I was meeting people talking about the subject. One of them was Colin Andrews. I helped, actually, just to get a recording, I helped him do the lighting for his show, just to turn the lights off and on when they're finished speaking and showing videos and whatnot. Colin Andrews is part of the Circles Phenomenon Research, I believe it is, in the UK. I believe he worked for the Margaret Thatcher government, and or at least he said he did. And he was an engineer, I believe. Anyhow, he sent me some information. He told me his story about what happened, and I'll leave that for him. And then along the way, I met other people. One of them was Bud Hopkins. Briefly, he just asked me if I had any, encounter experience with these beings. I said no, but I was interested. And I met the former Minister of Defense now for Canada, Paul Hellyer, and spoke about, he was speaking about how these things were as real as the airplanes flying over your head. And I believe that was at the University of Toronto. And I got to a point, I got on the mic there and I asked Paul, why are we waiting for a bunch of liars to tell us the truth? Because I thought looking at the evidence, that there was enough evidence to conclude that something was going on. So over time, different things had happened, different sightings, because I was more watchful of the skies than ever. And there was one time going home, totally unexpected, I was with my girlfriend at the time. This object, the size of about half the size or a quarter of the size of an automobile, burning as bright as flint, just a bright white light, just dropped out of the sky, and it slowed as it hit behind the tree line. And I said, we're going over, check it out. So we jumped off at the next exit on the highway, got headed north, and then started heading back west. And I stopped about where I thought it went down, and I climbed up the side of this little hill and then up to a fence, and got up on top of the fence because there was I don't know, I can't remember if it was crop or corn, or it was high grass, or anyways, I looked over the side of the fence and I couldn't see anything. But as it was coming down to the ground, it had slowed, and you could see the shadows of the tree, like the trees were breaking the light. So it definitely slowed and went behind the trees. And when I was up on that fence trying to look over, something told me to get away. So I don't know if that was fear or whatever. So I left with my girlfriend at the time, and just continued, and that was one of the other events. And then over the years, decades, um, because I'm ever watchful of the skies, different things. I'd seen different things. I should at the time. I'm trying to get the rough order of the events straight in my head. There's a vehicle coming. 1 second. So there was a major sighting on. We were dropping off my girlfriend's car at the time to her mother, and I figured because her vehicle was needing repair, I figured, you know what, on the way we should stop at some dealerships and see what's available out there, in case, because it's something to do with a cracked head on the engine. And so I was in front of my girlfriend, and she had her mother's car, and we were returning it. And I went to put my signal on, but I could see she wasn't going to follow. She just wanted to get the car there. So at the next dealership, I put my signal on and turned in, where she followed me in and immediately turned in a position to leave. And on the way there, I had noticed, if you look to the south, there's a very, very dark, very stormy looking sky, and to the north it was a evening type sun, like an orange sun. So it was kind of nice if you look north, and real bad if you look south. But because the sun was shining, and when you looked to the south, you could see, seagulls contrasted against the sky very easily as the sunlight hit them, against the dark sky, and that was very easy to see. So I'd noticed on the way there, as I was saying, a complete rainbow, and I don't think I'd ever seen a complete rainbow in my life, and most of them are cut off halfway. So I said, well, let's get out and see what's there. And I went up to her window, and I put both my hands down on the passenger window. She wrote it down, and I said, did you see this rainbow? And as I went to point it out, I looked, because I had my hands on the door, I looked up to the rainbow, but then realized out of my peripheral vision above me, on my life, there were two 30-foot to 40-foot perfect circles with light. There wasn't like a blasting light that blurred the edge of the circle. The edges were very clear. There was a moving shadow in the bottom of these objects, and there were two of them, and they were traveling at the same speed, heading south directly towards the rainbow in the distance. And they were right above, and I was in absolute shock. I'm like, what? They were about 200-ish feet, maybe 202, anywhere between 200 and 300 feet. I would say around the 200 feet or low twos. And these things went over the dealership, and I ran around the side of the dealership, and unbelievably, there was a third object identical to the first two, sitting stationary, same height, behind the dealership. The first two that were traveling together, I kept them in sight. As they passed the third one, the third one locked in exact unison, like the exact same speed, as if there was an invisible arm that caught it and dragged it with the first two. They traveled all the way to the horizon, to the right side of the rainbow, the outside of the rainbow. And I could swear they were down at the lake, because to the south it wasn't much farther down, that there was the lake was there. And those three, they dropped down below the horizon, and then they were gone. But I never stopped my stare. I was just mind blown. My jaw was on the floor. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I was waiting for them to come back up. And then it wasn't that they came up. It was like 5 of them turned on. About 5 of them, same objects, luminescence, turned on right just above where they had went down. They were to the right side of the rainbow. And then I'm like staring hard, and because there was a moment that I could do it, I was checking between the seagulls, the comparison in size and what they look like. And I don't know, the seagulls were closer, but as I'm doing that, I'm looking, like, you could see the seagulls the way they were moving. These things were just sitting stationary. 4 or 5 of them. 5. Anyways, one of them drifted to the left towards the rainbow, and the others stayed there. It jumped a bit and gained speed. So it drifted slowly to the left. It got under the rainbow. It jumped. And then from that jump, I cannot tell you how fast this thing took off. Faster than any shooting star, faster than anything I've seen in my life. Almost not visible. This thing shot off like a bullet out of a gun. It was just bam! It was gone. And my jaw, I think, hit the ground. I was like, oh my God. I cannot. It is totally awe-inspiring, totally shocking. And from that moment, the world looked different. There was something there that was not anything that we can make. It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's not a helicopter. Drones didn't exist, and even if it was a drone, not a chance. This thing was moving, at the time I estimated, tens of thousands of miles per hour. This thing, it was almost invisible. Now, that's at a distance. That's several kilometers away. I could get the exact distance. But the further away it is, and the wider the field you have, it's like somebody, if you were standing at the home plate of a baseball field and somebody threw a ball from your left to your right, that ball up close, it would look quicker. Now, if somebody threw it from the outfield from the left to the right, you could track it a lot easier. It looks slower. This thing, at a great distance, was able to move faster, almost faster than you could see. Like, I could see it. It glinted. It was just like, bam! Like, I can't even tell you how fast that is. It changed my outlook on the world significantly. And there is nothing, not swamp gas, not balloons, weather balloons, not hallucination, nothing that can account for what that was. There is nothing on this planet, no animal, nothing we've engineered, nothing we've made, nothing that can do that. And I know, and I could tell you why, because I worked for a major airline here in Canada, and I was in 2 capacities, and one of them was security infield. And I used to sit around for night after night after night. We were assigned different stations infield. Sometimes you're, watching taxiways for different traffic. Anyways, I know what planes look like coming, going from the side. At one point, I was working at a location just off the side of the runway. I used to watch them come in and watch the tires smoke as they hit down, right where they touch down. I know what planes look like. I used to watch them all the time. A lot of time they have a helicopter there, and once I think we had American fighter jets there. But these were not explainable as anything we can make. Nothing. And yet they were there. They're absolutely real. So when Luis Elizondo talks about these abilities that these things have, and what they can do and how they defy the laws of known physics, he's absolutely right. So I do not doubt him for a second. He is not a fraud, because he's explaining the exact same thing I know myself that I seen. So there are other things I'm going to talk about. I don't want to make this video too long, about, because I looked at the world in a different way, about who we are and why we are here, and I've always wondered that. But these experiences escalated over time. Now, nothing has happened one-to-one since I was a young man in my 20s, early 20s. So I'll get to that in another video. But there's something big going on here, and the world's about to find out. If Luis Elizondo and his team is telling you that he's inferring, without breaking his non-disclosure agreement, getting himself thrown in prison, if he's telling you these things are real, and he is, if you can read between the lines, he is definitely dropping breadcrumbs. These objects they would know if they're their own. So if they're their own, they wouldn't be talking about it, because you would be alerting other adversarial countries, that what technologies you have. You wouldn't come out and say, yeah, these things are defying the laws of physics. You would draw attention to your secret programs. So you wouldn't do that. If they were adversarial, you wouldn't be hearing Luis or anyone talking. If they knew this was another country, you wouldn't hear these stories. You wouldn't hear Luis coming forward and Chris Mellon coming forward telling you this. It would be a matter of national security, and probably the top of their priority list. Like, they wouldn't be telling you this because they would be alerting other countries that, or whoever the adversary is they think that was in control of these objects. They would be telling that country how amazed they are by that technology, and that they don't have anything like it. They would never admit to that. That would be a very bad intelligence maneuver. So what does that leave? What they're about to tell you, that's what it leaves. I'll start another video. This gets deep. Take care. Bye.